Welcome back to Crunch Labs. I'm Mark Rober, and today we're going to be talking about the duck game and all the juicy engineering physics that go along with it. Now, if you just got your box and you haven't actually put it together yet, this is what you will be putting together. It's kind of like at the carnivals when the ducks go by and you have to shoot them down. Well, we've got a little party blower here. And you'll see there's windows on both sides, and that's for a very specific reason, because while you can play this game solo and kind of get a high score, this can be a two-player game. So if you turn it on like this, and then you come down here, and you try and hit the duck. As the duck flips over, it hits this marble out of the way. So this is how you can keep score. Some very clever little engineering nuggets here. So right now, red is winning 2 marbles to 0 for blue. And the engineering principle for today is belts. And this is one of those tricks engineers use a lot. It's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let's jump right in, of course, starting first with the question of the day. And that question is, how do you turn a corner with a conveyor belt? I'm not going to go to the left this time. Hey, at least I went right. All right, well, what do I even mean by this question? A conveyor belt is like, you know, at the airport when you get your luggage and it comes out and it's coming along? That's a conveyor belt. I've kind of drawn it here. It's basically a belt. You have stuff on it. There's a motor here that spins, and then the stuff moves the speed that the motor turns. And if it's in a straight line like that, that's pretty obvious. You just spin this wheel at the speed you want the stuff here to move. But how do you do it when you get to a corner? And there's a couple different ways to do this. Here's one example. You've probably seen these at the airport. You have these vertical slats, and they're all parallel, but then when it gets to the corner, they kind of overlap a bit. Here's another example. You've got these rolly wheels, and then when you get to the corner, they sort of fan out a little bit, so it's able to keep things moving as it moves around that corner. But what about this one? You'll notice it's a flat belt that's turning the corner like that. You'll also notice there's a kid riding along that baggage conveyor belt. You should never do that. That is very dangerous, but I am a little jealous because I've always wanted to take a little trip by riding around that thing. Here's another example that shows it a little clearer. It's like these little sticks of butter, and in the straight sections, I totally get it. You've got rollers on the end, just like this. And if you spin it, the stuff moves the speed the roller spins, right? But when you go around the corner, if you think about it, the sticks of butter on the inside are moving slower than the sticks of butter on the outside. And by the way, it's like if this is a merry-go-round, something that's spinning around, right? If you're on the outside, you're actually going faster, and it feels faster than if you go more towards the middle. And that's because in the same amount of time, one rotation, you travel a greater distance. So you are going faster. So what the heck does the roller look like on that curve? Because like this part of the belt is moving slower than this part. Somehow this is moving faster, but it's like a rigid object. So how the heck does that work? What does the roller look like such that these could move at different speeds? And then the middle, by the way, is like the average of those two speeds. So that's the question of the day. We'll loop back at the end. By the way, this is a very advanced question of the day. I mean, this is like college level physics question. So if it doesn't make total sense to you yet, we'll loop back to it. But if you even understand and get the solution here, you are like bonkers level smart. All right, well, let's talk about belts then. And probably the first time you heard the word belt, like this here is a belt that, you know, can keep your pants up. That's very useful to have a belt to do that. But beyond the belt that you just wear every day, there's a lot of other useful ways you can use a belt. So for example, before we talked about gears, and what's really cool about gears is I can have a motor represented right here. And if I spin this way over here, something happens, right? Because I have all these gears in a line. But gosh darn it, that's kind of expensive because I have to use all of these gears and they all have a little bit of friction and that's not very efficient. If only there was another way to have my same motor here where I can make something spin way the heck over there. Well, there is, and that's where our belt comes into play, right? So I've got this little belt right here that in this case I just made out of tape. When I spin this, lo and behold, my gear over there is spinning. But you can see this would be way less expensive and just a lot more simple than using all these gears. Another good thing is it tolerates misalignment. So this could be way down here and it's still spinning, whereas if I turn this, these gears can easily sort of get jammed up if they're not at the perfect distance from one another. Whereas this belt, it kind of doesn't matter. It's just going to spin really well. And I've used belts quite a few times in my videos. So for example, with the Dominator, with Dom for the Domino robot, we had the motors up here, but the wheels we wanted to spin were down here. It just made way more sense to mount the motors up here. It was a lot more convenient. And then this belt transferred the energy from the motor down into the wheels so we could spin around and do these cool tricks. For the original Squirrel obstacle course, the pitchfork tumblers, you don't see it, but on the back there, the reason those are spinning together at the same speed is because there's one motor and then there's a belt that connects the two. In a car engine, you have this belt right here. That's called a timing belt. It keeps everything moving at the same time. Or maybe you've seen a fan installation like this that I love, where there's a single motor and then all the ceiling fans in the whole restaurant are moving by that one motor because they're all connected by belts. So that's one set of examples of when you would use a belt as an engineer. But another one is when you want to move a bunch of things more efficiently. So in the video where we collected all the trash from the river and there was that robot that ate the trash, after it collected it, it moved it up a conveyor belt like this into a dumpster. You can imagine that would be a lot harder if you individually had like a robot arm picking out the trash one at a time. A belt just efficiently moves it all up all at once. Also on the Domino robot, we use belts to kind of move the dominoes from down lower up higher so that the arm could place them one at a time into the whole loading mechanism. Like we said before, you see these at the airport as it brings your luggage around. It's like a conveyor belt. You see these a ton in factory machinery, like we showed earlier. There's a real famous scene from I Love Lucy where there's like chocolates coming down the conveyor belt and they have to like eat them all. How about a people belt? What's a belt that moves people? Well, again, at the airport, you have those moving walkways, so if you're in a hurry, you can walk a little bit faster. I love those because it feels like you have like superpowers and you can like walk super fast. That's just a belt that moves around so you can move more quicker. Or even an escalator. That's like a belt for people that goes from one floor to the other. And you might be like, no, those are just stairs. But actually, if you peeled it away and did a cross section and looked from the outside, those stairs just loop back around over and over again like a belt as they kind of fold down and go underneath. That's the part you don't see. Some other fun examples are there's these sushi restaurants that basically you pay for every plate that you take. So whatever you like, you just take it off this little belt. And then at the end, when you need to pay, you just hand them your plates and they count up how many plates you took. One final example for where belts are super useful is on a 3D printer. A lot of times, the way this head moves back and forth and the plate itself moves in and out is from a belt. There's a little motor there on the end, and the underside of this belt has little teeth on it. So basically, as the motor turns with the little gear on it, it moves the belt, and then that moves the head back and forth, exactly where you want it to go, super precisely. And then the final class of category where belts are useful are in things like a snowmobile, right? You have a belt here on the bottom. Why? Because that just gives you really good traction across this whole surface, right? So that belt just goes over and over. You can imagine how this is better than like wheels if you're trying to go through snow. Same with like machinery or like tanks. When you're going through mud and really awkward terrain that's not a smooth road, a belt is super useful because you get full traction. And it'll just make sure you don't get stuck there in the mud. One other one, which we used a lot when we're making prototypes on the Crunch Labs boxes, I use a lot in my videos as well, is a belt sander. So this is a really convenient way where you have this sandpaper that basically goes in a loop over and over again. And so all you have to do is walk up with your piece and that belt will very quickly sand it away. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover for belts. The key to being a good engineer is having a nice tool chest. And then if you have a problem, you can pick the right tool for the right job. In the same way that like wheels wouldn't be good for a snowmobile, belts really do make the most sense here. You probably wouldn't want a belt track system like this for your car on a highway where the roads are nice and smooth and paved. You just can't go as fast and it'll be really loud. So part of what I'm trying to do with Crunch Labs is just to expose you to all these different engineering solutions so that when you have to come up with your own clever solution, you have all the right tools in your tool chest ready to go. All right, so we're gonna get to the answer to our question of the day in just a moment, but first, I wanted to talk about the development of the duck for this portion of this box. It may seem just like a simple duck that knocks over, but there's some very clever engineering at play here, and to discuss it, I've got my buddy Mason here, who's actually the founding toy designer here at Crunch Labs. Mason, welcome.
Hi, how's it going?
You just snapped right in. Whenever I need you in the future, I'm just gonna snap now. That was fast. Mason, talk to us at the duck, because this is such a great peek behind the curtains, the type of engineering and the decisions that go into these boxes.
Absolutely. Yeah, this duck was really funny because it was maybe one of the hardest things that we've had to develop. As soon as we started prototyping, we ran into a huge wall. To simplify a duck, you can kind of think of a duck as just like a box shape, kind of like a rectilinear solid. And if you wanted to make a hinge that would secure that rectilinear solid to a belt that allows it to stand up and get knocked over and then go upside down and get reset, you would put it at the corner.
Put it in the corner. I put it in the corner.
So imagine you were looking at the duck like right in the eyes.
Yeah.
That means that you would put the hinge here. So I'll show you what happens. This stands up perfectly straight, which is great.
Yep.
That's one of the things it needs to do. When it gets knocked over, it stays down.
Great.
That's another thing that it needs to do. But I'll show you with this little roller here, if we attach this.
Okay. Starts up, I shoot it down.
It gets knocked over, that's good. Now, if we go back down, something weird starts to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't come quite straight, right?
It kind of hangs at a little bit of an angle. Okay, let's see if it corrects itself.
Doesn't
really work.
That's a problem.
That's weird, right? I would sum up the issue here with one word, which is center of mass. And in this case, you can see that the center of mass is hanging directly underneath the pivot. And that happens with a lot of things in life, with a swing set, with a grandfather clock. The natural state of rest is going to be right underneath the pivot. As soon as we got it here in real life, we see, hey, that doesn't work.
Yeah, don't put it in the corner then. We should just put it in the middle.
Wait a second, if we check, I can't knock it over. This is what we call over-constrained. Normally when you have a pivot, it allows something to spin around that pivot, it allows it to rotate. But if you have any sort of interference, now it can't spin. Now it's over-constrained. And in this case, we have these corners here that are kind of digging into the ground, and that's a problem. So it doesn't let it rotate. How could we change this?
I have a solution.
Yeah, that allows it to rotate.
Let's shave off the corners.
Let's shave off the corners, right? We get rid of the interference.
Okay.
Keep the pivot in the center. That should allow it to work. Let's give this a shot.
Okay.
Now I've got a pivot. I've got no corners.
It moves.
It still resets.
It's not over-constrained.
We retained that.
Okay.
We put it back up. Oh, it knocks over, but it didn't look like it was staying up for us.
Oh no.
Right, okay, so it's definitely not over-constrained.
Put the corners back.
It seems like those corners are really helpful for keeping it upright, but they're the exact opposite of what we need for it to be able to get knocked over.
Right.
So we were kind of at a crossroads, right? We needed the corners, but we also needed to get rid of the corners.
Yeah.
When it's upside down, we want it to be able to swing back and forth. We don't want the corners to interfere.
Yeah.
But when it's right side up, we want those corners to act as a stabilizer, as a stand. So what we did was, we took our hole for our axle and we turned it into a slot. We gave it a little bit of breathing room. So what does that allow us to do? Well, let me show you. When it's upside down, it hangs like it doesn't have any corners.
Yeah.
But when it's right side up, you can see it falls onto its corners.
That's cool. But it's still, and then if you need to reset it,
it falls back down. Right?
So beautiful.
So all it was we just changed the shape a little bit. We took a circle and we stretched it out, and that solved our problem.
This is such a great example of sometimes there's an amazing solution that totally works, but it's not that complicated. Like, you don't need all these wires and fancy mechanisms. These constraints breed creativity, and all you had to do was change a hole to a slot. Now you have this amazing mechanism that works, but like getting there was quite a treacherous road.
You need to really understand what makes up a hinge. And we think we encounter hinges all the time. We know exactly how they work. Until you really think about them from their building blocks, from their foundation, you can't really get to the actual solution. Our hinge is actually better than the original hinge. Do you know why? Because with an original hinge, it only gets knocked over one way. It couldn't be a two-player game.
Sure.
But now with this one, it can go both ways. You can play it from this side, you can play it from that side.
Nothing makes me more excited and happy than like a simple, clever solution to a difficult problem. And that's what we did here, so I wanted to pull back the curtain, bring Mason here. Thank you, Mason.
Thanks for having me.
Get back to work.
All right.
Get out of here. And now for the answer to our question of the day: how do you turn a corner with one of those flat conveyor belts? Again, the issue is like somehow this part of the conveyor belt needs to be moving faster at the edge than this one. So how do you do that? If you're thinking real smart, it doesn't have to be a cylinder like this. What if you had something sort of like this that was tapered, like a candle is, or like a cup? Because now if I spin this cup and I'm an ant here, versus an ant here, it's a little bit more of a wild ride on this edge of the cup than this one, because I'm farther away from the center, right? Because in one rotation, this is traveling a bigger distance. And if you go farther in the same amount of time, that's the definition of velocity and speed. You're going faster. So basically, I drew this out beforehand. That roller on the end of the curved portion isn't a cylinder like this. It's tapered kind of like a cone like this. And the belt is just sort of a half circle, because if you sew that together and folded it over, you have this belt like this. And now because you have a conical roller here, this satisfies our constraints. And as long as this end of the cone is, say, for example, twice as big as this one, in the same way that this distance is twice as far from the center as this one is, then it's going to roll perfectly and you won't have any slippage on the belt. So next time you see that at the airport, you can be like, I know exactly how that works. All right, so now we'll cover how to put it together. As usual, you can either watch this video and just pause it, or you could use the paper instructions or some combination thereof. I'll do this in about 4 minutes. It'll probably take you anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. Grab your battery pack and the red rectangular adhesive foam. Then pull out the clear plastic safety tab from the battery pack. Then peel and stick the adhesive foam to the side of the battery pack that has the on-off switch. And then peel off the other paper backing. Next, grab the large wood frame with the on-off etching on it. Stick the battery pack to the back side of the wood frame so that the on-off switch is visible from the front. Next, flip the wood frame so that the Crunch Labs logo is facing down. Now grab 2 white bolts and 2 red spacers. And then from the bottom, insert 2 long white bolts up through the central holes in the wood frame. Then slide 2 red spacers down over each of the white bolts. Now locate a dark blue wood rail and 2 yellow standoffs. Place the dark blue wood rail over the white bolts and secure it in place by twisting on the yellow standoffs. Now find the dark blue plastic rollers and 2 rubber bands and stretch a rubber band over the notches in each roller. Make sure the rubber bands sit flush in the notch. Pro tip, friction in the right place is awesome. These rollers use rubber bands to give them more grip so they can turn the belt more easily. And here's a quick demo to show what I mean. See here how without the rubber band, the rollers can't move the paper, but with the rubber band, there's enough friction to make it work. Now grab the wood frame again and insert the rollers into the large holes in the dark blue wood rail. Next, find a matching dark blue wood rail, then place it on top of the rollers. Next, grab 2 white bolts, 2 red spacers, and the second large wood frame. Balance the red spacers on the bolt holes located on the dark blue rail. Then insert the white bolts into the 2 holes in the wood frame. Next, place the large wood frame on top of the red spacers so that the white bolts fit inside. Finally, use the 2 white bolts to screw everything into place. Spacers are used to keep certain parts from touching. In this case, the red spacers leave room in between the wood pieces. Check to make sure the 2 wood frame pieces are mirror images of each other. That way your windows line up perfectly. Now grab the yellow DC motor and the corresponding red adhesive foam. Peel and stick the red foam over the DC motor shaft, then peel off the remaining adhesive backing. Next, stick the DC motor into the cutout in the wood frame. Make sure the motor shaft slides into the hole in the dark blue roller. Now locate the 2 red foam marble trays. Then peel off the paper backings and stick them to the corresponding etching on the wood frame. Next, find the 2 yellow wall pieces and stick them to the red foam trays. Now grab a light blue plastic hinge and one of the yellow wooden duck pieces. Slide the yellow wooden duck piece onto the blue plastic hinge. Now locate one of the short wooden dowels and 2 white plastic washers. Place the 2 washers so that they sit in the 2 small slits in the yellow wood. Then slide the wooden dowel through the slot in the plastic hinge as well as the washers. Next, locate a yellow foam duck piece and peel and stick that yellow foam duck piece to the yellow wooden duck piece. Peel off the remaining adhesive backing from the yellow foam and stick another yellow wooden duck piece on top of it. Make sure that all the duck shapes line up correctly. Then repeat steps 15 through 18 until you have 3 completed ducks. Now find the blue fabric belt and 2 white elastic cords. Insert the 2 white elastic cords into the 2 holes on one end of the belt. Now locate 3 more white elastic cords and use them to attach all 3 ducks to the blue fabric belt. With the ducks on top, facing away from the motor, wrap the belts around the rollers. Then use the 2 white elastic cords to secure the belt in place. Thread the battery pack wires through the hole in the bottom of the wood frame and connect them to the motor. Make sure to connect the red wire to the red wire and the black wire to the black wire. Now it's time for a test. Flip your battery pack to the on position and watch what happens. You should see your belt start to rotate. Now find 2 black elastic cords and then insert them into the small holes in the wood frame from the inside. Next, locate the 2 short clear tubes, then slide them behind the black elastic cords so they fit into the rectangular cutout in the wood frame. Next, locate the small clear plastic tab and then slide it behind the black elastic cord. Just make sure the small notch fits into the matching cutout in the wood frame. Now fill both clear plastic tubes with marbles, one with red marbles and one with blue. Use your fingers to press down on the blue rails next to the marble to make sure that everything is aligned properly. As a pro tip, pressing down on the belt track near the marbles will ensure your ducks have enough clearance, or that's to say, enough room to pass on by. Now it's time for a test. Turn on your conveyor belt again and try knocking over one of the ducks. It should hit one of the marbles and kick it out into the red tray so you can keep score. Now for the game, use the party blowers to knock over the ducks as they pass by. If you play with 2 people, it can become a competition. Use the marbles to keep score to see who can get 3 points first. For the engineering hustle then, I think we either go with the question of the day. So how do you get a conveyor belt to turn the corner? So maybe if you're at the airport and you see one of the flat conveyor belts and it's turning a corner, you can ask your buddy or your sibling or your parent, how does that work? And remember, the answer is the roller on the end. It's not a cylinder, it's a cone, it's conical. Or maybe you go with the duck question, like Mason talked about here. It's such a clever, simple solution. How do you get a duck that can actually right itself when it comes back around? Of course, the answer there is that the hole is not a circle, it's actually an oval, it's a slot. And if you change that to a slot, it magically makes everything work. Such a simple, clever solution. All right, well, good job today. As usual, I want to remind you that engineering is an iterative process. It's all about failing. These are many of the prototypes, but not even close to all of the prototypes we made to arrive at the final version of Duck. You can see at one point we had like a ratchet here. That was like keeping score. We had like a semicircle action. Some of these had 2 motors. This was a paper version for keeping score. We tried at the beginning. Bunch of variations of the ducks like Mason talked about. The point is you never arrive at the final solution just by drawing it on paper a bunch. You gotta get your hands dirty and make and build and test some stuff. So what can you do to take this to the next level? One thing I think is really exciting is as the 2-player game, if you don't use the party blowers, maybe you and your buddy can both have Nerf guns and you try and hit the ducks from either side. Maybe you use your disc launcher and see how many seconds it takes you to get 4 points by trying to shoot the ducks as they go by with the disc launcher, or really anything. I mean, this is like a carnival game with the ducks going by that resets, that keeps score. There's so many different ways you can make a fun competition out of this, either with someone else or just yourself. Either way, no matter what you do, make sure that you work with your parents, post it online, tag us at Crunch Labs, because nothing makes me happier than seeing these being used in the wild and the very clever, creative things that you guys do to take these to the next level, or just to have fun with them as they're intended. Okay, well that's it. You have now earned your gear badge for belts, so you can go put it together, have some fun, create your very own shooting gallery in your own house, and go nuts with it. And then I'll catch you again next month, right here at Crunch Labs. Oh, and if you're watching this and you haven't yet ordered your Build Box subscription from Crunch Labs, then what the heck are you waiting for? Visit crunchlabs.com with the parent, and once you're there, you can learn more about how it all works. Thanks for watching.